All right, welcome back to Chapter 8. We're going to look at that password validation program again. So the way I've got this set up is I've got my main event handler. So I'm assuming when the user clicks on this button, it's going to take whatever they typed in here for the user input and it's going to test it. So the way I wrote this was, well, I knew a couple of constants because the password must be at least 8 characters long. So I'm going to do a constant here called the minimum length is going to be 8 characters. And then I'm going to assign my password, the user's password, whatever they typed in, to the word password and create that as a string. So declaring and assigning both happen here at the same time. Now, the real magic happens here within the condition statement. If you look at this, it looks kind of complicated for a moment, but it's really just saying, is the password, is the password that they typed in, is the length greater than or equal to the minimum length, greater than or equal to 8? Because that's one of the conditions that has to be met to make sure that this password is valid. That's one of the rules. And that's the first rule up here. Now, the second rule is it must be contain at least one uppercase character. So I'm going to create a method here called is there a number of how many is there uppercase characters. Keep track of those. And I'm going to also keep track of my third row here is there lowercase characters. And finally, is there a digit? So I've modularized this. I put them into their own separate methods. So I said, take the password, whatever they typed in, and let's pass it as an argument into the method here called uppercase. And we're gonna basically check to see is the uppercase, do they have at least one or more uppercase characters in their password? And we're gonna do the same thing with lowercase. Is there at least one lowercase character in there? And then finally, is there at least one digit in there? All right, so once I do that, I'm going to take my password and I'm going to pass it as an argument into this method here called uppercase. So let's go down here. There's uppercase right here. And you can see here that it's being passed in as a string. So I'm going to pass my password in here as a string. This is great. And I'm going to use this syntax right here called let's loop. Let's loop throughout the collection, which is basically a string is a collection of characters all concatenated together. And we can use this repetition structure right here called for each. So for each character in the password, let's check if that character, if that char was an uppercase. Now we just looked at this method here. Is the character, is it uppercase? If that's true, then let's count it. So I put in a counter here called uppercase, and it'll go through the entire password. And if there's an uppercase, it'll increment this to 1, and it will return 1 or not. So that returns back up to here, and this will equate to a 0, 1, or more. And then this will equate to a Boolean expression of either true or false. So in my case, when I typed in the word password with an uppercase P, of course that would come back as 1. Now, is there lowercase characters? Okay, well, same thing. Well, let's take the password and let's run it through a method here called lower. It's identical. It basically takes the password, runs through each character, and tests to see the method here called is it lower? If it is, let's step it up, count it, and return the lowercase. So this will equate to 0, 1, or more. And then finally, we'll do the same thing with is there a digit? And we know what the method is for that. And the method here is it a digit? And if it's a digit, meaning is it a number, it will return as well. Now we could put in another rule here. It has to have a special character, which could be a punctuation. But there's some problems. That's a bit problematic, and have to look at the list of all the different special characters for punctuation, because I don't think the ampersand sign is a punctuation, but it is a special character. So you have to be careful if you were going to add that rule to your list right here. So what we've really done here is we're using our methods here for checking to see is it upper, is it lower, is it a digit, and we're combining this with our own personal modularized methods here to check to see if those rules had actually been met. And if it has, we display a message and we output the results and keep track of all the stats here.